This is a presentation on French illustrator, painter, and sculptor Gustave Doré.
By Daniel Babb and Dory Owen. Gustave Doré was born on January 6, 1832, in Strasbourg, France, into a family of 3 brothers and 1 sister. He experimented with art from a young age, so there wasn't a need for him to find a teacher. His bread and butter were his illustration works, but he did try painting and sculpting. However, these never reached the same popularity as his illustrations. He was known for making several pieces a day during his life. Some argue that his work effort led to his death on January 23, 1883.
In 1847, Doré took a trip to Paris to show his work to Charles Philippon, publisher for the Journal Pour Rire. Philippon then hired him as the character artist for the magazine at age 15. During this time, Doré focused mostly on lithography, a printing process utilizing a flat surface, usually treated stone, to print an image. When he was 17, his father died of pleurisy, a very painful lung disease involving inflamed lung tissues. Doré produced many famous book illustrations during his life, but also worked on comic book and novel illustrations, and in his later life, Doré lived in England, where he opened up his own gallery.
These are the 3 examples of Doré's works. Going from left to right with butchered pronunciation, there is the 30-second piece he made for Dante's Inferno, the cover of Contes Drôles, and the 2 goats from La Fontaine's Fables. Each of these were created by etching. The level of detail in each show how dedicated to his craft Doré was and why many artists still study him to this day.
These are Doré's illustrated books in the order that he produced them, beginning with Rabelais' Gargantua and Pantagruel, The Adventures of 2 Giants, Gargantua and Pantagruel. He then moved on to Balzac's Contes Drôletiques, which appears to be some satirical magazine. He then did Dante's Inferno, followed by Don Quixote and the Contes of Perrault, also known as The Tales of Mother Goose, which is a collection of children's stories. After his famous editions of the Bible and Paradise Lost, Doré illustrated The Ideals of the King, which are poems of Arthurian legend, and La Fontaine's Fables, a collection of legends and fables from various cultures. He then did the Purgatorio and Paradiso of Dante, followed by illustrations for the poem Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Now, if you'll click the link on the bottom of this slide, you'll be able to watch a video of the original copy of Doré's Bible.
Monumental 19th century family Bible. It's in Swedish, and it's noteworthy, first for the incredible binding, but it's also a very rare book that's got illustrations in it by Gustave Doré. Right here, illustrated by Gustave Doré. These types of Bibles often have covers that are detached because of the weight of the cover. When the book is laid flat like this and opened, the weight of the cover can cause it to break off if a person's not careful with how they handle it. Gilt decoration, and we see here, I'm going to do like so and lay the front cover flat, and what we'll see is that the entire Bible is just profusely illustrated. There are many of these full-page steel engraved plates with tissue guards, like so. Very nice steel engraved plates, and like so. And there are also these full-page illustrations throughout by Gustave Doré, fantastic artist. Just as a side note, in fact, this past weekend, I was down in Boston at the Museum of Fine Arts, and there they have, by Gustave Doré, this unbelievably beautiful, large, sculptural, pictorial representation that he did in 3D sculpture. Late in his life, he took.
These 3 pieces are all etchings and great examples of Doré's attention to detail and style. By using shadows and light, the viewer can get understanding of the tone without having to read the story the illustrations are for. The darks of the Paradise Lost illustration use a fair amount of dark colors to show danger, and the lights to bring the angel into focus while also hiding the dark being in the background. Conversely, The main use of the light in the Dawn, I'm going to butcher that, so I'm not going to try to say that, piece shows that the duo has high hopes for the new journey. However, what makes Doré's pieces unique is the use of the etched lines. Unlike other artists, Doré used the etching lines to help give his pieces minute levels of details that increase the quality of his pieces.
Some fun facts about Gustave Doré. Because he used so little color in his illustrations, many people believed him colorblind. He never married and spent much of his life living with his mother, and in 1861 he was given the Legion of Honor Award.
I have something in common with a famous artist. I can't see colors very well, and I can't get a date.
The link at the bottom of this slide is a brief video biography of the artist.
Gustave Doré is a French artist of the 19th century, born in Strasbourg in 1832, died in Paris in 1883, so he's an absolute contemporary of Edouard Manet, but that doesn't mean that he's an impressionist, not at all. He doesn't belong to any avant-garde movements or to any academic movements of his time. Fundamentally, he's independent. As a child of the 19th century, Gustave Doré is a paradoxal artist, working sometimes on a very small and miniaturized scale for vignettes and illustrations, and sometimes on monumental scale. For example, for his largest sculpture, the vintage vase, 4-meter high bronze coming from San Francisco, an exceptional loan from the Fine Arts Museum of San Francisco. It's an artist who is sometimes hedonist and sometimes depressive. He's interested in the most various theme of his time, like landscape. He participated in a significant way on the renewal of religious art. Also, of course, interested in caricature and illustrations of literature of his time and back to the 14th century for Dante, for example. Some of our visitors will expect to see in a Gustave Doré retrospective mostly illustrations and drawing. And of course, Gustave Doré is a major illustrator, but is not only that, that's maybe 1/3 of his work. And the purpose of this first retrospective after 30 years, and the first retrospective here in the North American continent, is to remind the people that Doré is also a major painter and a major sculptor. Doré is part of the heritage, visual heritage of the 19th century, but even if he didn't have a direct influence on other artists of the early 20th century, he had a tremendous influence on comic strips and on movies. And this will be also, of course, evident in the exhibition, because there will be free opportunities during the exhibition to look at movies, at excerpts of movies, where in a very evident way, artists like Terry Gilliams looked at Doré.
While working on his illustrations for several books, Doré also tried his hand at painting. However, these pieces never got the recognition and love that his illustrations did. Two of his most successful paintings are the Neophyte and Pablo and Francesca de Rimini. These pieces are religious in nature, seen by Neophyte depicting a group of holy men, and the Rimini depicting a couple that Dante met on his quest in the Inferno. In fact, this piece is an oil version of the etching that Doré made for the same story. You can also see where the belief that Doré was colorblind started from the lack of color variation in these pieces.
Though well known for his illustrations, Doré's work in sculpture is largely overlooked. He didn't start in sculpture until later in his career and never received much recognition for it. You see two of his most well-known sculptures here, Fate and Love on the left and Poem of the Vines on the right, a massive vase standing 13 feet high and weighing 2.7 tons.
Here is a quick clip just so you understand just how big the Poems of the Vine really is.
to get the exceptional loan of the vintage vase from San Francisco. 4 meters high and 3 tons heavy. It was, of course,